Yeshua, your King of praise. Shalom, everyone. This is Messianic Rabbi Buzz Tremé, the Jew teaching you. Welcome to our Bible study. Yeshua, you are the way. Yeshua. Okay, let's read just a couple verses, and then we're going to close. Leviticus 26, verse 34 through 35. Then the land will enjoy its Sabbath years, all the time that it lies desolate, and you are in the country of your enemies. So let me say this. In 14, the first verse in the chapter of 26, Leviticus 26, it's a reward for your obedience. Starting in verse 14, this is punishment for disobedience. And so it brings us up to verse 34, and he's talking about the land. Read 33. Verse 33, I will scatter you among the nations and will draw out my sword and pursue you. Man, you know what, can you imagine what it's like to have God after you? Now the sword is the swords of the nations where He scatters you. Your land will be laid waste. And it was. Do you know universities around the world were going back in the 1800s to Israel trying to get something to grow? I don't know if you knew that. Texas A&M was involved in that at one point. A lot of different colleges and countries went there to try to get the land to produce. Couldn't do it. Just wouldn't happen. And then all of a sudden, the nation is back. It's Israel again, and they've set produce records worldwide for the greatest if it's melons, Israel's going to be number one record holder. If it's cherries, if it's chickens, they have actually, it's amazing. When God lifted the curse and they tried everything they could, they couldn't do it. So He says, the land will be laid waste and your cities will lie in ruins. Verse 34, then the land will enjoy its Sabbath years all the time that it lies desolate, and you are in the country of your enemies. Then the land will rest and enjoy its Sabbaths. All the time that it lies desolate, the land will have the rest it did not have during the Sabbaths you lived in it. And they went to Babylon for 70 years, lived there, and just think, every year there was nobody to work the land. They were all in Israel. So the land rested. The word Shemitah means release from. At last, can take a breather. And then the following year, another Shemitah. Pretty soon, God says all their Shemitahs got filled up. Now you can go back to the land. You going to behave yourself? And so the story goes. We're going to stop here, and I think we have laid out a pretty good understanding of this covenant, the Promised Land covenant. And don't forget Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, the meek will inherit the earth. Do you know a lot of people just don't like that verse at all? It's like, what was he talking about? Because that's the Bible promises. You're heirs together with Israel of the promise. So what's the promise? You get the land. Where's the land? Is it that little piece from the Jordan over to the Mediterranean? Absolutely not. Euphrates, all the way over to Syria and Lebanon, all the way across the bottom over to Egypt and to the Mediterranean. That's a huge piece of real estate. It looks like in the prophecies of Isaiah that the earth is going to be shaken and transformed. The mountain of the Lord will rise to be the top mountain and glory of the earth. And when all that's happening, suddenly the land seems to increase, and it will look like the garden of God, the most well-watered piece of real estate on the planet. This is that promised land, which right now is desert, lots of it. So keep that in mind, and as you study, look forward to the coming kingdom, because the kingdom is when we're glorified. We're placed in charge. He restructures everything. Remember Acts chapter 3, verse 19. This Jesus must remain in heaven. Peter says, He's been appointed as your Messiah, Israel. He's your Messiah. He must remain in heaven until the time set for Him to restore all things. That's a powerful verse. So, when you see Israel back in the land, the restoration has started. And you know, you and I would do it in a week. It's not how this thing works. Israel had to get back in the land. They had to learn the language. They had to learn some battle, because their enemies wanted to take everything from them. So they had to learn to fight. They had to learn to get along with one another. They had to form themselves into a nation, a unified nation. They had to take on adversaries from without and from within. They had to keep fighting. And look, in 67, the Six-Day War took place. Jerusalem suddenly was in the hands of the Israelis again. All of this is moving us forward in God's timetable to when He will reveal Himself to Israel. If you are a Gentile, it's not a bad thing. But what does He say? Rejoice with God's people over the Lord of Israel for what He's going to do. They're the chief nation. That's not a bad thing. It's good, because it shows God can take a little people and make something great out of them. And if you are a part of Israel, it's because you've been grafted in, and God's made you a child of Abraham. And we're going to close, okay? I think we got the point. Did y'all get the point? I got the point. I like it. These covenants just lay out the whole pattern. And so next we're going to look at the Davidic covenant, and it's not big and complicated, but we need to understand it, because God made promises to that guy, made a promise to him. And what's the sign of that covenant? Just jumping ahead, the Star of David. It's literally two D's, and a D is a triangle in Hebrew. It's a doorway. And the promise was that David's offspring would be the one to fulfill the symbol of the Davidic covenant. One doorway points from earth to God, and one down from God to earth. And that's the sign. By the way, those letters form David's name. Anyway, just saying, don't lose sight of it. The cross is a great thing, and we appreciate it, and it's often taught. It's not. I don't like it. But a few years ago, somebody in Christianity who was very well known had some problems, and from that experience, he got the revelation that you can't save yourself, because the preaching was pretty much, without holiness you can't see God, and you've got to do this, do that. The holiness comes from God. And the next thing you know, he got the revelation that you can't make yourself holy. It's something God did for us at the cross. But not only by shedding of His blood, but by overcoming death and raising again and giving us His Spirit. So this teaching was suddenly rampant. At the cross, stay at the cross, stay at the cross, stay at the cross. Did the apostles stay at the cross? No. His body was taken down, put in the grave, and He resurrected. And we moved on. In fact, the Bible tells us to move on. So you can't stay at the cross and fulfill God's work. I'm not saying discount it as the greatest thing ever happened, but it's not just the death. That's the sign of the curse. He took the curse that was on you and on the creation on Himself. So we stop focusing on that. We've received that blessing. Because of it, you and I died. We died with Him. And now because He rose again, we rose to the newness of life to do God's will, to do God's work. So we can't continually stay at the cross because, if we get away from it, you will never grow if you stay in death. That's where the death took place. So anyway, and a lot of it is just perspective on how you view it. But my point is, let's bear fruit. If you stay always focusing on the pain Yeshua did experience, if that's all you focus on, oh, but look how He bled, and look how it hurt, and it hurt His mother, and hurt His friends, and all that. True, but He did it once for all. He doesn't do it every day. You can't go, if you go back to the cross, He's not there. It's been done. It's been accomplished. You stay at the cross where the sign of suffering and shame, you'll not have joy. But if you'll go to that empty tomb and say, look, He's out. He's there, and He's poured out His Spirit and said for us to live the good life. Isn't that good? Then there'll be joy. People want joy. They don't want you going out and telling, don't you want to be Christian like me? Woe is me. I mean, think about it. That's not what won me to the Lord. Father, we love You and we give You praise. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen.